Hello everyone, I'm Melanie with Painting Crafty, and tonight is Tuesday night draw along, and I'm going to be showing you how to do this step by step as we follow along here. Oh, I was checking my audio. I wasn't quite for sure if I had it on right. I think I'm okay. Fingers crossed. If you see an audio problem, let me know as you pop on. I'm going live tonight in my Facebook group and in my YouTube page. So if you hear me respond to comments, but you don't see them, it's probably because they're on a different channel than you are. But that's how that section is. So tonight I'm going to teach you step by step of how to draw this picture and then show you a little easy watercolor process to be able to add the watercolor. So since I'm showing you watercolor, this is the paper I like to use as the Canson brand. It's a 140-pound weight watercolor paper. It's still considered a student grade, which means that it's reasonably priced. But I really like that watercolor paper because I can get pretty good results. I kind of believe just spend just a tiny bit more on your watercolor paper and then just use the watercolors that you can afford because they come in a whole different range of prices. I'm going to be working on a 6x6 piece of paper tonight is what I'm going to be working on. I'm just going to be using a regular mechanical pencil, nothing too fancy. I have just a high polymer eraser, this one to erase my bigger marks, and then I like using a gummy eraser to lighten my graphite marks. And tonight I'm just going to be using a simple student grade watercolor set. So I'm just going to be using this simple one. Whoops, turn it the right way. This one right here. But again, if you don't have exactly what I have, don't worry. Just get your pencils out and start drawing. The more you practice drawing, the better you're going to get. And I'm kind of a believer too that the better your drawing skills get, the better your watercolor or your painting skills are going to get too, because you learn about shadows, you learn about shapes, and I'm going to be breaking down all the shapes to make this drawing a lot easier. Hello, Tarita. Hello, Gloria. Thanks for popping on tonight. Ladies, good to see your names come on. Is my audio okay? Are we coming across okay? I've had kind of a jumpy little start when I started, and I wasn't quite for sure if everything was working. So if you could just float me some hearts or give me a comment, maybe make a comment, I'd be able to see that. That would be super helpful. Now, also too, before I get too far, I wanted to say I do have a Ko-fi page, which is rather like a Patreon page. It's just a great place I do have a sketchbook membership in there. It's very reasonably priced. I include all my the tracers for all of the drawings that I do on my Facebook. And Gloria, oh good, I'm glad. Thanks, Tarita, for letting me know. I include the tracers for that. That's what they get in the subscription. Plus, it's just a great way to support my page. It's very reasonably priced. I appreciate all of my subscribers that are on in there. And tonight they got a little extra bonus. They got this full little set. If you're a follower over there of me on Ko-fi, or if you're just a member and want to pop over, this is the little surprise they got tonight. It's just this little animal alphabet. It's some dogs and cats made into alphabets. You can easily change these alphabets to any animal that you want just by changing the ears. And tonight I'm going to be using that alphabet idea on my word here for Easter. The top one is a little alphabet bunny rabbit. And all I did was change the ears and add a little tail, a bunny tail, to make it a rabbit. So you can use those little letters. Go over there. You can grab a copy of that if you're interested in, just to be able to practice and have some fun. And that's over on my Ko-fi page, and you can find it there. So pop on over, take advantage of it, take a look to see what I might have over there. Well, let's go ahead and change this screen so you can see big drawing, small me. We'll put it that way. And we're going to start out with this. Now, if you're watching on mobile, I would suggest that you turn your phone into landscape, so long ways, so you can see your picture better. And if you're watching on YouTube, on a TV, you got it made. You can see big and you can see everything you want. But if you are watching on a mobile device, either which one, YouTube or Facebook, turn it horizontal and you'll have a bigger picture to look at. So tonight we're going to start out, when I do my drawings, I always grid them off. So a line down the middle and a line across this way. I divide my paper off evenly. That's just going to be able to help you see how big and how wide and how I'm drawing my things. It's a good way for me to teach and a way for you to understand the proportions that I'm drawing. Well, hello, Lydia. Thanks for popping on tonight. Good to see your name pop up. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at how I kind of divided off my little bunny today. I decided that I was going to do the U shape of her face slightly a little bit more on the side, just because I knew I was going to write this Easter here. But you can always slide her over and put her smack dab in the middle if you like. Thanks for the hearts. I so appreciate it. If you're on YouTube, if you give me a thumbs up, they love that. They really do like it. And if you're watching from Facebook, if you wouldn't mind sharing me out, they appreciate that there too. Two different platforms, two different ways that they like to be able to show people things. So I appreciate everyone playing along with that. I have such a little bitty channel. It's so nice for your support and doing all the little things. They all help. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this shape of her face. If we look at my center line, here it is. I'm up a little ways when I'm going to start my U. Now I gave her kind of tall ears, so I wanted to make sure I had enough room here. And this is going to allow me, if I start up a little higher, to make sure I have plenty of room to continue her dress and have room for her feet. So when you're gauging your picture, that's going to decide how far you want to place your things so you have enough room for the feet and however tall you want your ears to be on the other end. So I'm going to take a look here, and I'm going to make a little tick mark right here so I know where to make the bottom of my U. And I'm going to make a little line here too to get an idea of how high I want to leave for her ears. So if I take a look here, I can just kind of eyeball this. This is about half of this square. I can come right on over, just eyeball it. And I know I'm going to be below that half mark there. So if I take a look here, that's probably, this is half. So I actually want to go a little bit shorter than that. So I want to keep it a little low, that half line. So then I've got plenty of room to make those tall, cute ears. So let's start with her face. It's coming out like a U shape. So I'm going to come down on the edges on each side for the width of her face. Whoops, now I need to slide it over if I want to slide it over. If you're going to put it in the middle, you'll know your nose is going to be in the middle, and you can make each line even on each side. Oops, we're having a problem with the camera. I'm slowing going here with the internet tonight, so I apologize for that if it's not going out correctly. Thanks for sprinkling. I so appreciate it. So I want to slide her over, so I know her nose is going to be probably about right here. So then I can gauge how wide or where the sides of my head should be. So I know I'm going to slide her over just a tiny bit so I have room for my lettering. Okay, so there is her little face. Now we're going to start here, the center mark for the top. This is where I'm going to build my ears, and her ears are kind of a triangle-ish shape is what it is, and you can decide how pointy you would like to have your ears or if you want them rounded. Good. Hello, Judy. Thanks for coming on from Alabama. I'm wishing I was in Alabama tonight. We're having such dreadfully cold weather here right now. We had 50 degrees yesterday, and then now it's only 13 degrees out there. I think I'm gonna have to make these a little wider because I want the insides of my ears. But with the wind, it feels like it's -6. And we're supposed to get down all the way to -2 actual temperatures tonight. So Old Man Winter is deciding it still wants to hang around a little bit. Okay, there we go up. I'll make this one a little bit wider as well. Come down, so play a little bit with your ears. Decide the shape that you want. It's mostly that they're long and tall and they have kind of a little bit of a point. Now she's going to have a little inside, so I need enough room to put the inside part of her ear on each side. I like doing those little sketch motions. It just kind of helps warm up my hand, and I'm not so stuck on the exact shape, so I can draw it out or sketch it out. Gives my eyes something to look at, and I'm going to erase that center line out of here because what that's doing, it's confusing me of where I want to line things up. So once I've got my little shape done where I want my nose, I'm going to take that out of there so I no longer am confused about where my middle is of my face. And I'm going to go ahead and put this little sweet muzzle on her. So those are just hooks, down to the right, down to the left. And there's that camera thing going again. You know, sometimes it does that and we have no reason why it does that, but it just does. So luckily I was looking up to catch it this time. Streaming services, they're great when they work, and when they don't, they're a little bit frustrating. Okay, down and up. And this is what's going to give her her character. So depending how you draw this part of her little face is going to give her a different type of character. So play around with that as well, and maybe draw the lines more angled and up and see what kind of a look that gives it. You could do more of a rounded gesture and see what that looks like on her face. So you can create a little bit of character to your rabbit just by with the muzzle and how you draw it. So play around a little bit with that. So this time I kind of made it a little bit more angular, just to give it a look like that. Now when you place her whiskers need to go down in this area where her muzzle is and not out of her nose. So bring it down onto her muzzle, and this is where your whiskers are going to come out. Sometimes when I get going, sometimes put my whiskers up high, like by her nose, but that's not really where they go. They go more down towards the muzzle area. So place her there. Hi, Kendra. Thanks for coming on. It was 50s today, but never left the house, and the rain winds our next few days. Yeah, we're kind of getting that same kind of cold front coming through. It's just, I guess it's your typical February and March weather. Now for her eyes, I just made simple ones. I kept them fairly close to the middle, and I made them dark. I just made very simple little eyes, and I will put little eyelashes on her as well with my pen. In the end, I'll put a little pen work there for some eyelashes, which look really super cute. Now let's go ahead and make the neckline and start with her shoulders of her dress. So we have this part built. So let's come out with her shoulders and her dress. So when I did hers, I angled this shoulder out this direction, and then her arm was coming back in. So like her hand was behind her. And then this one is coming up here, this shoulder, it's coming out a little ways down and making a hand and then a U, whoops. And this is how I'm gonna build the top part of her dress. So this one I angled until about my center line, and then I came back down. So if I look here, I can go back out. Now this may have to be changed with your drawing depending on how you're drawing your bunny. And then when I come this direction, I'm going to come out as well. I'm going to come down. And this is going to be where her arm is. So I'm going to make a little arm shape. Now I'm going to come in, and I'm not going to go too far because I wanted to kind of give her a wider look. So I came in and just made a U and then came back down. So I wanted to give her kind of a bigger, boxier type of style of dress. So I came up with this U quickly, and then I came at an angle. Now I'm going to come down. Now take a look here on my side where I'm drawing things here. So if I went about halfway here of that block, that's going to be about where I'm going to be starting her skirt. That's going to leave me enough room to get feet and legs in there. So you want, if you're drawing similar size to me, go ahead and make a tick mark across. Just eyeball it. And I can already tell I'm a little low. So I want to make sure that I'm not going, that's going to be, this is where I need to be starting my skirt. Have an idea in my mind. It's going to come down, and then we're going to come across. And then we're going to come up with my dress, my skirt on this side. And we're going to come up to about the top of my pocket is where I ended it. I didn't come all the way up. Now you could draw this line all the way up if you wanted to. Like that's the side of her. So you could come up a little higher with that line, and then that might help visually give an idea, a better idea of that her arm is behind her. So I could come up a little higher. So I could come up this way, my arm, and then my elbow is going to come out this direction. So this is like where I'm going to be bending, and then I'm going to bring that back to my body. Now she's going to have a cuff here that comes. This is actually her hand. This part right here is going to turn into a little bit of her hand that we're going to see, and that's tucked behind her. Now let's go ahead and finish up our dress detail here. So I'm going to be putting her skirt in. I think I want it to be a little wider actually. Let's get this a little bit wider. Pay a little bit more attention to what I'm doing for my dress detail. This is going to be the bottom line of her skirt. I'm going to put a little bit of detail work here like the body of her skirt. Now you can erase these center lines here if this helps to clean this up, so then you're no longer confused about where things are going. Sometimes I like to clean it up partway in between my drawings so I'm not getting confused about where I'm putting things. Okay, so let's get her part of her detail of her dress on. So she's got a little collar. Hi, Joni. We got a little collar here that we're going to do, a little collar element. She's got a band on her dress that comes across. pop in a little pocket. Now she's got a little chick that's inside of mine, but you could put anything in there that you wanted to that might be an animal that you would like to put in. I gave her simple little horizontal buttons, a detail on her dress, and then of course those are little pleats that are on her dress too. So I'm going to come up here and add my little chick pocket. So I'm going to come across. This is just a simple little square that's going to come across. She's going to have the top part of her pocket. Now to make the little chick, I'm going to start with kind of a U shape. So we're going to have a U here that's coming down. So it's curving in like it was a U. When you get to your pocket, you can do like an invisible line over, then put your pencil down where your U would start again. And then you're going to come up for a tail, come down. We got a little bit of a back. Now this is going to be rounded the rest of the way here to make the chick. So I'm going to just have a rounded little head. Now right now she looks like she's sitting up too high, so I need to poke her down a little bit farther. Hi Nicholas, thanks for coming on. So I need to poke her down in there. So I need to make my U touch the top of my pocket. Now by doing that, I just switched her up a little bit and now she's tucked a little bit farther down in the pocket. Now I'm going to have that chick looking up, so I'm going to put the beak more at the top of her head, like that. And then I'm going to line up my eye, and we've drawn lots of little birds over our time that you've drawn with me, if you've drawn with me for very long, and you want to line your eye up to your beak, and it's going to be, your eye is going to be fairly close to the front of where your beak is, so it's up a little higher. So I'm going to come here, here's the center of my beak, I'm going to line that little eye up right there. So now my eye is looking up and my beak is looking up, so my little animal is looking up towards the bunny. She's cute as can be. Now I'm going to put my little collar line in here, so I'm just going to drop down, do a little ruffle is all I did on her, like so. And then I'm going to create little buttons. Now I just did little straight lines, but you could do whatever. 4, maybe I'll do 5 this time. And I put the little pleats in, so I went straight down or followed the line of my dress and made some pleats that come across. Whatever might work with your dress. All right, let's put her little legs in there. Oh, there, that camera twisted tonight. We're having a lot of problems with the streaming service tonight. Switching cameras on me. It's going to keep me busy with stopping and stalling. I never know if it's the streaming or if it's the internet for sure or whatever, but it is what it is, I guess. So let's come down here and take a look at her feet. So it did it again. You're right, Kendra. It did it again. So rabbits are going to have this nice big foot on there. So to get it to look like a rabbit, you can have the narrower legs, but put those big bunny feet on there. And that's just going to give your rabbit another really adorable looking rabbit. So I'm going to put another cuteness to her. So I'm going to start here with my leg off to the side, down, and then I'm going to round it around. And I'm going to give her some big feet and then back down. So she's got her cute little feet, and she's got pretty narrow little skinny legs, but that's what gives her a cute look. So I'm going to take a look on this side. I'm going to put my other leg on this side about the same distance away. So if I take a look here, how much space do I have there? Let's take a look over here. I kind of want to match that. So I'm going to take a look here. This would be the outside of my leg, and this would be the inside. So that just kind of helps bring your leg to kind of look like they're similar. Then I'm going to bring my big old foot out here. You got to have a room for a little toy something here, so we can't get too carried away. Okay, there we go. All right, so now we have our little bunny. She needs her hand. For this one, for her hand, I just made it come out just a little bit on the sides. So it's kind of like, oh, it did it again. Oh my goodness. Oh, goodness gracious. This really is flipping back in and out. So I gave her a little line like that. And for the hand here, I just did an M shape, or like a, oh, not an M shape, but 3 little bumps like this. And then a rounded part here. So it looks like her hand is closed and her fingers are up, is what that looks like. So her hand is closed, but up like that. That's what's going to hold the little string that's on there. Now let's go ahead and put her little toy cart that she's got, a little pull cart. This is just going to be a rectangle with some wheels, and I have a basket, so it's just an upside down U with a shape that for handle, and then I put some flowers in there, but you could put whatever you wanted in here. This could be another, I don't know, maybe it's another bunny, maybe you have some Easter eggs in there. whatever you think, or maybe carrots. Maybe she's carrying carrots. You've never drawn like you're doing, but I think I could learn a lot from you. Oh, well, I'm glad you're here. You're still kind of new to crafting community. Well, I'm glad you're stopping in. So let's go ahead and do the little pull toy. We all learn, okay, we can learn something new from everybody we watch, I think, sometimes. And we're going to do a little rectangle here. Now, I'm pretty close to my foot on this one, but that's okay. If I need to, I can make it look like it's behind her foot. So if I need to make it bigger, I can go up, make it go look like it's behind a little bit. So if you didn't have enough room to do a big enough cart, you could always do something like that. Now, they're going to be circles, but they're going to go up and over a little bit of your wagon. So you want the circle to go up and in there. And then I'm going to come on this side and put my other one. Now this one's going to be partially behind her foot because that's how I drew it. And I'm going to erase that in the middle. What's ever in the middle of your circle, erase it, and then add another little circle. So that's like the part that hangs on to the wheel. I'm going to put a little hook here, so to put my string through, and then I'm just going to run a little string up, give it a little bit of a wiggle, come up to her hand. Her string would be sitting kind of, you know, like this, so you're going to want it towards the bottom part of her hand, and then come up, and then I'm just going to give it a twist like that. Something cute. Now let's go ahead and pop in a basket. So I'm going to do a taller U, and I just need it to sit on the bottom. So if you actually want to start at your bottom here, you could start at the bottom to figure out how wide you want your basket and build it off the bottom and then come up like so and then come across. I'm going to give it a little scallop treatment here just to fancy it up a little bit. And I'm going to make a U handle. So I'm going to come up and over. This is just simple. I'm not adding any perspective to it at all. I'm just making it very like a 2D look to it. So there's my little basket. Now I can just pop my flowers in wherever they might go. So I'm just going to do a flower that comes up like this. This is just a real simple tulip look. But what I'm doing by adding that element there is I'm filling up that space and adding some interest to my drawing by adding it there. Now to do the little simple tulips, I'm going to do U shapes and then just 3 little points. That's all there is to it. So a U and a point. What will make it look good is if you have your flowers going different directions. So this one's going to the left, this one's a little up, but twisted slightly to the right. And this one will be even pointed more towards the right. And it's going to be a little shorter again. So have them different heights, have them going different directions. And that will just add more interest to your drawing. My eraser's not wanting to stay into my pencil tonight. Between my camera and my eraser, I'm having problems tonight. All right, now you could also add even more texture to your basket if you wanted to do a woven basket. You could do a pattern going across and then cross hatch another direction. So there's even lots of ways to fancy up your basket. Make your drawing your own. It doesn't have to just look like mine. You can make it any way you would want to. All right, let's do a little bit of this Easter alphabet. I had said earlier I had provided a little alphabet, animal alphabet. So the first one I did was the letter E, and I made it into a bunny. So the E is built with a little bunny figure, and the hand is like the center part of my ear. And then I just added a little tail. So let's go ahead and create that first one. So this is going to be my biggest letter. I'm just going to basically start with the letter E so I know how I'm building it. So there. This will be my arm. So I'm going to come out, do a little, that M shape, and then come back. That probably needs to be narrower. I don't want too chunky of an arm. 1, 2, 3, and then back. But I'm not having it touch all the way to the back line. So I have that part down. Now let's build her little head. So I'm going to give her a little bit of a cheek on this side, like that. I'm going to come over here and give it another little cheek. So I'm doing comma marks is basically what I'm doing, like a comma or a parentheses. So I've got a parentheses and a parentheses. That's how that is. Then the center of her head here. And then we're just going to build the little ears off of that. You can build your little ears however they might work and look good on your rabbit. She's got little closed eyes, so I have those little smile faces for eyes. She's got the tiniest bit of upside down triangle nose, and then she's got a tiny little muzzle right there. So I'll hold that up so you can see it a little bit. So there's my sweet little bunny, and that's the letter E. And I made it kind of give it a stamp look. So I made a little square or rectangle around it. This gave it kind of a little fancy stamp type of look, like a mailing stamp. And then there will be these little tiny little bit of a line work to make it give it that ruffly look. Just add a little bit of cuteness to this. Now I did give you that alphabet today inside of my Ko-fi page where you can go over and just grab that for free as a reference for little animal alphabets. And all you have to do is change the ears and make them into different animals. So if I wanted to do this a mouse, I would just make my ears round. And so there's lots of little different animals you could make. The kitties, you could add the kitty ears. The dog, you can make it dog ears. So there's lots of ways you can change them up by just simply changing the shape of the ears. Now let's write Easter. So E-A. Now where's my spell checkers? Joni's on. Hi, Anne. Thanks for coming on this evening and watching on YouTube. Easter. I can easily misspell the simplest words that I even know how to spell. My eyes just don't see it. It must be, I swear it's a brain thing. I know how to spell it, but when I write it, it doesn't come out that way. So the gals who've been watching for quite a long time, they know I need a spell checker to keep me honest. Okay, so once I have my little drawing done, I often use my big eraser to come in and I erase the bigger marks with that. My guide marks, whatever I might have that are my stronger lines that are coming across, I'll erase those. But then I'll switch, let's see, I have a little dust vacuum. If you like to draw, this is a super great tool to have. This picks up all the little bitsies. If you're a crafter, this is super handy. It can pick up fabric, it can pick up glitter, all kinds of things. So it's a great one. You're eating supper while you're watching. Well, thanks for watching on YouTube tonight, Kendra. Now I'm going to take this eraser. This is my gum eraser, and this is good for picking up graphite. It's not going to smear. I'm going to be able to lighten up my line work. I do have a heavy hand when I do draw, but I also need to draw darker so you can see what I'm doing. But when I do my watercolor, if I'm not doing a lot of pen work on this, ink work, I don't want a super heavy pencil line. So this works great if you have a gum eraser, just to pick up that graphite. It really does clean up your page. It doesn't smear the graphite around and just cleans it up, because sometimes when you use that harder or the bigger eraser, if you don't erase everywhere, it does kind of smear your graphite around. So this works well for that. So you just have these gum erasers, pick up your pencil marks, and then you're ready to do your watercolor. Okay, great. All right. All right, now so since we have it drawn and I've showed you step by step of how to draw it, it doesn't really matter what you do for coloring it in. So you can use whatever medium that you like to use. So if you're an acrylic paint artist, grab your acrylic paints and start painting it in. If you like colored pencils, markers, crayons, it doesn't really matter. But I'm going to be showing you watercolor tonight, so I'm just going to be using this simple little set. It's just a student grade is all it is. And no matter if you, whatever kind of watercolor you use, even if you're using markers, which is what I started with to do watercolor with, was just a water soluble marker. You want to make a color card so you know what your colors are going to look like when they're on paper, because they really do look different inside of here when they're dry, and they look completely different. So it's a great idea to do a color chart on the paper you're going to use, because then you'll have an idea of what your color is going to look like. I'm going to go ahead and take this little mister bottle, and I'm going to give this just a little bit of a squirt just to get it started. That's helpful. Tonight I'm just going to be using a Princeton Velvet Touch brush. This is a watercolor brush. I'm going to be using a 6 and a 10 is usually what I use for like my backgrounds or bigger areas. But just those two brushes, I can get quite a bit of my area done with the size of drawings that I'm working on tonight. So I'm just going to start with my 6 and work from there. Now I did make her a brown bunny, so I'm going to choose a brown. I often tell my people I don't like the browns in these sets. They're a little bit wonky. So what I do is I take the 3 browns they give me, and then often I will take a little bit of black and mix it in there and make my own brown, because I don't really like the browns in there. So you can mix watercolor just like you can with acrylics, and it doesn't really matter. So with watercolor, you are painting shadows. So you're going to start light and then work your way dark. You're going to start out with like a tea consistency of paint, which means that there's more water and less pigment when you're starting. Okay, so I mix that together. I'm going to give it a tap on a piece of paper towel so I don't have it loaded too much. And I'm going to go in where I want my brown. And if you can leave a little bit of white showing, that will be your brightest whites with watercolor, because once you cover up your paper, all the whites of the paper, you can't bring them back. The only way you would be able to add them in is with like ink. You could add it in with ink. You could add in a little bit of acrylic paint if you wanted to, or gouache, that would add. But watercolor is unique that way. It's okay to have some of your substrate showing, and often it's very preferable to have a little bit of that on there. So I'm going to add that first bit of brown to her, give her a chance, and there it is, going again. I don't know why it does that. I don't know why. I'm going to give that a chance to dry, and then I will add another layer in there. Now, if you end up with a bunch of puddles on your paper, take your paper towel and squeeze your brush, and then you can come in and actually pick up some of the color. So you can pick it up. You don't want a lot of puddles on your paper at this particular point with doing the style that we're doing tonight on her, because the puddles will do little blooms, and if you notice that when you get too much water, it'll start to bloom and you get more texture than what you want. So you want to put on a layer, a wet layer, but not like super puddles. And if you get those, just go ahead and squeeze and pick them up. Hi, Terry. Thanks for coming out tonight. Now I'm going to take a little bit of this brown and I'm going to put it on her hand over here. And I'm going to be coming down here and putting it on her feet because they were brown as well. So this is my lightest layer. And then I'll be adding at least 2 more layers on her. I usually have a light, a medium, and a dark is what I'm looking for often when I create these little drawings. All right, so we have that. I'm going to pop over and do a little bit of gold. I'm going to make kind of a dirty yellowish gold here. Let's see. We have this yellow ochre here. I might add a little bit of that, but that's kind of bright. I'm going to dirty it down a little bit by adding a little bit of brown to it and see if I can't get more of a dirtier color. All right, we're going to give this a tap, and then I'm going to lay this into my basket. Now I want my color of my scallop to be a different color. So when I'm doing my watercolor, I don't want that to go in there because of the translucent nature of watercolor. You're going to see all your layers, unlike acrylic paint where you can cover them up and you can make them opaque. You really can't do that so much with watercolor. I'm actually going to leave a bright shine there so I can have a little bit of white and I can play with that spot instead of covering it all up. I'm going to come in and just simply do these. There we go. Cute. I'm also going to tap a little bit of this yellow up here on my stamp. So I'm just going to come in and do a little bit of that ruffle bits in that. When I create these little drawings, I like to carry my, these little paintings, I like to carry the colors around my picture. So I have some of that color there. I want to include it some other place. So I'm going to put it here. I'm also going to put this on my little chick as well in her pocket. So then I'll have kind of like 3 places where I have that color. So I'm going to put the little chick, I'm going to add it to my little chick right here. Oh, she's so sweet sitting inside of that little pocket. Cute as can be. All right, now my bunny has been dry enough. I'm going to mix up a little bit more brown. And I'm going to add another color. I want it a little bit more darker. So this time I can either choose to do my colors with less water, more pigment, or I can mix just a darker color and still keep it ink consistency, but knowing that it's a color shift, it's going to show up. So this time I've kind of mixed it to about ink consistency, but it's a little darker color. So let's see what we got. So I'm going to tap it, and then I'm going to lay this in. Now my goal is not to cover up everything I just put on, because those would be my bright high points on my rabbit. So I'm going to come up here and lay some of this color in, but I want to leave a little bit of that original color showing, because those would be my brightest whites. So it's a little opposite of what acrylic painting is. If you're used to acrylic painting, you usually start light with your underpaint or dark with your underpainting, and then you layer in your highlights. This is just the opposite. Okay, so there we go. We got her that next little layer in. I'm going to add that to her hands as well. A little bit of shadow there. Maybe just keep a little highlight on her hands. And I'm going to add some here, but I want to keep a little highlight on her foot still. I can always add more. I just can't add it back in. There we go. Okay, I think I might take some of this color too and add it to the wheels, just a tiny bit of it. There we go. And I used a little bit of this brown to create a little kind of a little pattern on my bunny up here. So I gave my bunny some little brown spots. So if you would like a little brown bunny, spotted bunny, you could add some up there. Kind of a fun little location. He will get a little pen work. I will add some pen work to this bunny to give it a little bit more structure. So he pops out more. I'll be adding a little bit more that way. Now let's add a little bit more gold to this. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to pick up a little bit of that brown, mix it together. So it's a little bit darker gold. Give it a tap. And then now let's lay that next color in. And I'll probably be adding a little bit of rust color to this too, to change up my gold, to kind of give it a straw look to it. Okay, so let's add a little bit more of that orangey color into there. Now my color is wet, so this would be considered a wet on wet. So I have wet paint, and I'm going to add more wet paint, and I'm just going to tap that in. And because my color is wet on there already, my paper's wet, and I add this color on, the colors are going to mix together and do like their own little watercolor magic. And they're going to sit and play. The colors will melt together, and you can push and pull them a little bit with your wet brush, or I rinse my brush off in clean water, give my brush a squeeze so it's kind of a dry brush, and then I can push and pull my colors around a little bit and aid in that. But that's just going to give it a real interesting look. It's different than when you put the dry paint onto the wet paint, the wet paint on the dry surface. The colors work differently. So when you're doing wet on wet, they're going to move around more, and the colors are going to blend by themselves. So there's a little different look. So you might want to practice that and see how that looks for you. Now I'm going to go ahead and mix another layer of brown. So I'm going to take another color. This will be my darkest color. I think I'm going to make it a little bit more orange. So I'm going to add that little bit more of that rusty color that I have in my set. Maybe a little bit darker. A little bit more, maybe even a little bit more of that. There we go. Let's try that color. All right, so now I'm going to come in and add this next layer here. And I want to be able to see a difference. So if you put it down and you don't see a difference really, you can always change it. I'm going to give that a tap. She's turning out a little bit different. And, you know, I can never make them the same 2 times in a row. So, but they don't have to be the same 2 times in a row. Each of them are going to have their own little personality. And as you build them, they're going to take their own little character. So it's always kind of fun to see how they turn out and how their personalities kind of pop out. Now let's do this one here. I'm going to choose a shadow point, the darkest one, like on the inside of her foot over here too. So I'm going to go on the inside of her foot and leave the top of her foot the brightest color. I'm going to take a little bit of this color here and add it to my wheels too, just to give it another layer. Perfect. All right, let's take a look up at my little bunny up above. Do I need a little bit more color there? I could tap in just a tiny bit just to add a little bit more interest to him. You could take a look at your little centers around this part if they need a little tap of interest. Add that in there. It's not precision painting. I'm just kind of tapping, and I'm going to rely on my ink to kind of add a little bit more interest to this and more definition. Okay, cute as can be. Now let's go ahead and work a little bit my basket a little bit more on my basket. So I'm going to be putting a little bit of a green accent here. And I would probably call this milk consistency. All I did was basically wet my brush, dip it into my paint, got a little puddle, give it a tap, and then I'm just going to tap my color in. So I'm not even kind of mixing it. I'm going to use that color to do my stems in. And this number 6 brush can work just fine for this detail. And maybe I will put some little leaves on there to give it a little bit more interest. There we go. And I'm going to do a bright pink flower. I'm going to do that same trick where I just go into my puddle of my paint here, just swirl it around in there, go directly from my paint pan, give it a tap, and then I'm just going to add my pink to my flowers. Now I do have that bright color magenta one in here, which is what I really like to use, that neon pink. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that too. My flowers are wet, and I'm just going to tap a little bit of that in there at the base. And because that color's wet, it's going to travel throughout my flower. So there's a chance I could get a very variegated look where it's dark at the bottom and then goes light as it follows up. All right, we need to start working on this dress. So I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of that. I need to wash out my pan so I have a little bit more spot. Clean a spot out here to use. I have this little ceramic dish up here that works perfect. It's designed to do watercolor, but because of the background, it really helps to see what colors you're mixing. So I'm going to have a little bit of this bright green, and I think I'm going to dull it down just a tiny bit with, I might pick up a little bit of black and add it into there. Okay, that got to be really too dark. Let's do a little bit more the bright green. Okay, so this is going to be my first layer, and I'm going to pop this on. I'm going to go around her collar because I'm going to be making that pink, and I don't want that pink to be underneath the green. And we're just going to lay this in. Again, this is our lightest shade, and then we'll be adding darker ones on the top. Way too much pigment on there. My puddle's too big, so I need to pick it up. So I'm going to take my brush, dab it off, and then I'm going to pick up that color. So I have a dry or a thirsty brush, and then I'm going to bring that color in because I don't want to overflow my little chick and make it a green chick. Wherever your paper is wet, that's where that color wants to flow. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't do the dress right away, because I didn't want my chick to turn green. So in order to keep it yellow, I need to wait until it's dry before I add my next colors to it. So when you're doing watercolor, wherever your paper is wet, that's where the color wants to flow. So if you're going to do something next to it, so I know I'm going to be doing a pink pocket and a pink band, that means I need to let that green dry before I were to put anything else on it. Now I can go ahead and layer just a little bit more color in here, but I'm laying around it, leaving some of the light show so I have a variation in my color and it's not all the same. Okay, super cute. So I'm going to skip down and do her little skirt, and on that one I'm going to choose a blue that's in this family here. So that's this blue right here. And again, I have all my pans kind of filled up. Let's check this one. This is one of my favorite ones. I have a bigger hole. I can tell which ones are my favorite colors because the holes get deep in there. Thanks for sprinkling. Hi, Jamie. Thanks for coming on, ladies. So I'm going to come over here, give this a tap, and I'm going to go ahead and do my first layer, and I'm going to stroke in the direction that I have my pleats on my skirt. So those are down, so I want to do those in a downward motion. I might even leave some of the paper showing so I have a little bit of highlight in my skirt because I'm going to be putting another layer on there, but I want to fill this in. Okay, there's that color. Great. Now I use that same blue for my little toy over here, and I'm coming in. How's the reception tonight, ladies? How's the quality of the picture? On my end, it looks a little fuzzy tonight, and I'm curious to know what it looks like on your end. It's been kind of a rough video night tonight. So curious if you could actually see the picture, can't see the picture. Okay, I'm going to choose that pink color that I have, and I'm going to do that for her nose. So I'm taking a light pink, kind of a light Eastery pink, and I'm going to go ahead and pop that in on her nose, just a little bit of it. Got too much. I got a big puddle there, so I need to pick some of that up. I'm going to come in, so I'm going to have my cleaner towel here. And you can actually go on your paper and pick it up if you need to. Like if you got way too much, you can actually take your paper towel and pick it up and then reapply it. Now with her ears, I want to add a peach color first. So I have kind of this flesh tone one. It's just a little bit blurry tonight. It is. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's kind of a rough video night tonight. I'm not for sure what that's all about. So I'm going to come here and do a peach first. So, and that's going to be damp in there. So now I'm going to pick up that bright pink and I'm going to tap that in just a little bit to that peach that I have going on there and give it kind of a peachy, pinky ear. And my colors should blend because it's wet and it's wet. And I'm going to pick up a little bit more of that pink and I'm going to give her some pink cheeks. So I have it consistency of about ink. Whoops, got a consistency of ink there. Let's see. Let's try this. Let's try this once. Try that. And then bring it down. See if it refocuses. If that helped at all. Sometimes that helps. Like there's a really weird focusing. And then I'm going to tap this little bit of pink here on her cheek to give her a little bit of a pink cheek. Pick it up and soften it. Okay, let that color sit and kind of work out. If I need to, since she's a darker bunny, I might have to pick up some of my really bright, like the fluorescent pink and give it a tap. And I might have to tap a little bit of that in there just to be able to see her little pink cheeks because she's a little bit darker bunny. But I don't want it to be like super round circles. So I need to stop and let that rest and see what it does because I don't want to get too much off. Still, then I'm watching on a computer monitor and it looks okay. You could zoom in a little though. Okay, that sometimes takes a little bit of work. We'll try it. We could try that and see what happens. The only thing about being close is that which works, is that then the phone wants to concentrate on my hand and less on the picture. So it's one of those things where you're darned if you do, you're darned if you don't. Now let's choose a different shade of green. Let's choose a little different shade of green here and see what we get. So I'm going to choose a little bit different shade of green over here, kind of added a little like blue green to it. Give it a tap. Let's add this on here and see what this looks like too. So I'm brushing this in, but I don't want to cover up everything I put on originally. So this is my next darker color. I can see I kind of want to maybe darken up my chick a little bit too. It's kind of light. Now this darker shadow would be on the inside of her arm here and not on the outside. There would be kind of a little bit brighter area there. Okay, so let's give that a little bit of time. Let's pick up a little bit more of that blue. And let's do her skirt. So I'm going to choose that the darkest spot is going to be on the left of every side of my pleats. So I'm going to come in and add a darker line to the left side of my pleats. Put that in there. Now I can come in and wet my brush and then squeeze it out, and then I can soften that line a little bit so I don't have such a hard line. I can come in and just kind of tickle that edge a little bit and soften that color so it's not so like a bunch of L's running down her skirt. I can come in and tickle that line a little bit and then soften that area up. And we can add another layer if we need to. Like this might be the middle color of the blue, and we might actually add a little bit darker too. Well, let's come here to add a little bit more dark to this toy. So the darkest part is going to be, you know, kind of like right where the basket is sitting up there. Maybe a little bit on the bottom, and then just have a highlight in the middle. That works good. All right, let's go ahead and work a little bit on her pocket, and that little birdie needs to be kind of brightened up a little bit. So I might choose kind of a brighter yellow, maybe a little bit on the orangey side, just to see if I can't brighten her up a little bit. So let's come up here. Let's brighten that chick up. She's looking a little too quiet. She's got to have a little bit of brightness to her. There we go. That's looking a little better. I'm going to pop in a little bit on her beak too, just a tiniest bit of brighter orange. That. Okay, now she's looking cute. Let's work a little bit on that collar. It happens to go back. Oh, okay. If that happens, go back up then. Yeah, it's hard to know, Terry, if it starts doing technology. And your internet too. It just varies so much. There's so many moving components when we're doing these. It's not necessarily all So simple. So that's the bright. And you know, I think I'm going to do a little bit of the peach first on her pocket. Let's add a little bit of the peach on our pocket first. So let's add some of this color on here like we did with the inside of her ears. Let's do that. Let's add a little bit of that first on there. And then let's tap a little bit of that pink in there on the edges. So let's tap a little bit like that and let that color just kind of float across there and see what happens. And let's do the same on her collar. So I'm going to start with a little bit of that peachy color and let's put that on there. Just tapping it through. Okay, and then let's pick up a little bit of that pink then. And then let's tap that in there too. So this is about milk consistency. It's a little bit thicker than what normally is. All right, now we got to add a tiny bit more pink off to the side of her little nose. So let's add a darker side. So I'm just going to add just a tiny bit more pink there. All right, let's see what those colors do. Now let's add a little bit more dark. So I want to add one more dark to her stripes on her dress. So I'm going to come in and just kind of maybe add an overall wash over the top of it. And then where it was darker, it's going to even go a slightly darker, a little bit more. And I'm just making them a little irregular, adding that feel to the bottom of her skirt. Okay, cute. All right, let's do a little bit of pen work before we do the background. So I'm going to come in with my pen. This is a 01. It's a Micron pen. And it won't move around if it gets wet. It's a permanent. I'm going to come in and do her eyes just all dark tonight. And then I'm going to add like 3 little eyelashes on each eye, just kind of like little ticks over there. And I'm going to do her nose in kind of a sketchy little motion. I'm going to carve out her little muzzle. This is when she's going to be coming to life here by adding these little details on. Paper might be a little wet. Let's go ahead and do the whiskers. So those are going to be down in this little muzzle area, like so. And I usually include a little dot at the end of the muzzle, like that. Now I'm going to do some sketchy marks here, and I don't even care if I'm following exactly where I drew. I can just do this very sketchy look and give it a hand-drawn look by creating these little sketch lines. This is where I hope it doesn't want to focus too much on my hand. I might have to move it back up so it doesn't focus on my hands again. So let's come over here and do this little quality here. And then let's put the inside of her ears in. So she's coming to life. Now let's do this little around her collar. This is where we're kind of adding the little details in. I'm going to add the lines back in here. And let's come down here. I'm following around, but I'm not feeling like I have to 100% follow what I drew, and I can double up my lines, which kind of, it gives it more of that hand-drawn feel, or I feel. It's a look that I like, but if you want to trace around exactly what you did, you can. Now when I get to the end of her toe, her foot, I could do like a little bump that looks like it's little toes there and indicate that there might be little toes at the end of her feet, which look really cute. I'm going to come here, do these around, follow through, do a little bit of sketching on this little toy that she's dragging. Oh boy, couldn't get my pen to go quite right there. Okay, just gonna come around like that. Add those in. And this is where you could decide if you wanted to add some cross hatching, you could come across like on your little basket and add them this way. I didn't do that on my original, but I can show you how you could do it on this one. So you could add a little bit of basket weave, just real informally to give it more of a baskety look, and try that. Let's go ahead and work on our letters and fill those in so we can see those. So I'm going to do A. Lettering is just one of those things that the more you practice it too, the better you get and the more freehand So these are just freehand lettering, and often if you just change the font up so it's not all the same, it's going to look better to your eye, and you don't have to stress about whether or not it's perfect just by switching it up a little bit. Now let's give that little guy a little pink nose. We should probably add just the pinkest of nose up there. So let's add a tiny bit of pink up here on his nose. And you can maybe give him a little pink cheek on there. So water down your paint a little bit. Come in, give it a tap because it's such a small area. Give him a little pink cheek, and then we could give him a little pink tail too. We forgot to add that on there. I didn't even draw that on there. Let's add a little pink tail on the end. Cute as can be. Now I did add a little detail to my flowers over here where I just did a little bit of a mark that kind of came out at the end, a little bit of a flourish on the end of my flowers. Totally optional. You can choose to add these, or if you want to add them, up to you. Now we have a little bit of background stuff going on as well. So I did throw a little bit of a dragonfly in there. So to do the dragonfly, you just start out with your round head like that. And then you're going to curve your squiggly line around like a parenthesis. So I'm just going to do a squiggle and come around. That's all I did. You're going to have one wing up, one wing that's going down, and then put a couple antennas in there, and you have a sweet little dragonfly. Now I did a simple little color wash on him. I picked up that bright green that I had in my dress color, and I add those to the wings like so. Now this one also has a little bit of a flourish, a little bit of a flower flourish that comes around. So you could choose those little greens. You can freehand this in, or you can draw, whatever. I'm just going to freehand it. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to do an S shape. So I'm going to come in and do an S shape there. And I'm going to run an S shape down here. So maybe this time it's just going to go underneath her feet because it doesn't fit the same this time. They're always different. And then I'm going to do that little S shape up here too. So I'm just going to end it there. And then the little leaves are, all they are is just a push down of your brush and then a pull up. So they're nothing too fancy of a leaf. They're just a push down and a pull. So they've got just a real simple little leaf on there. And I just put them on either side depending on where they're going. So I'll put one here on the end and then add whatever side makes sense. I'll add them so it makes more sense. Maybe I switch this time so I have some going now this direction. And when I get to the end, I'll just end it there. Okay, and then down here, where does it make sense? Maybe my leaf is going up this time here, and maybe there, and then maybe it's going this direction now. So I'm switching and going the opposite direction. Okay, and then maybe there's just a simple little one underneath here, just connecting. Okay, now I'm going to give that a chance to dry a little bit before I put my background in, and I'm going to take just the lightest bit of color of my green. It looks like my brush needs to be washed out a little better. Getting way too convoluted with my colors here. Let's do, take some of that out. I'm going to come in and do just really a super light wash of green. So I'm just going to have a real light green color inside of my little bunny area. So I'm going to come here and just do the lightest shade of green. I don't want to do his face green. Don't want to get too far into my bunny. But I still want it to look like an alphabet. So I'm going to have just a little bit of that in there. Go around. Okay, let's do that little bit of that detail around the stamp, or the little flourish around the stamp. So I'm going to come back in and re-emphasize my line that I had done in my pencil, but I hadn't really followed with my watercolor, because in the end it didn't really make much difference. I just wanted two different colors there. So I'm going to come up and around like that. I'm going to go put some dots in some, just to give it a little bit more interest in those different areas. And then I'm going to be boxing it in more to give it that look of coming down. And maybe I want to do that little bunny detail. Cute as can be. Cute as can be. All right, let's work. I'm going to have to dry this because my green is still pretty wet. So in order to do that light background, I need to have that green pretty dry. You're gonna go down and do your knee exercises. Good for you. Okay, so now my paper's starting to curl up, which we'll often do. You can apply some heat on the back, and then that should be able to push your paper down to be more flat. So if you're drying yours, force drying it, you will get a little bit of that ripple effect. So if you can you can add some heat to the back and then make it settle down a little bit. So I'm going to switch to my number 10 brush, and I'm going to start with that peach color. Let's see. Again, my little palette is getting pretty messy here. So let's wipe out some more spots because I'm getting pretty messy here. I've got way too many colors going on and I need to open up a space. So I want a little bit of that peach color is what I'm wanting. It's a real light kind of peachy flesh tony kind of a color. It's got quite a bit of white in it actually, but I like using that in combination with that pink. So then I'm going to pick up that brighter pink, and I'm going to have some of that off to the side too. Both of those are about inconsistency. I like doing fairly light backgrounds, so that's where I'm going to start with that color. I'm going to start with my peach first, and then I'm going to put it in there. Oh, I'm so glad you joined in tonight, Anne. It's been one of those video nights, and I apologize for that reception or whatever it might be. So I'm going to come in, and I've got tea consistency. I'm going to move my brush fairly quickly when I do this part, and I'm going to do a regular back and forth. I don't mind seeing a little bit of brush strokes in my backgrounds. I'm okay with that. So I like having just a kind of a fairly light background, whimsical. I'm not going to spend a lot of time next to my colors because this picture is pretty fresh. We just got done painting it. And if I get too close to my colors and rub on them, they could rub out or they're going to come into my background. So remember, whatever's wet is what the color wants to flow. So I'm going to go move quick. I'm going to get kind of close, but not rubbing a lot. And there's my pink or my peach layer. Now I'm going to be able to come in with my pink, my watered down pink, and I'm just going to go right in and add a little bit of pink here and there and scoot my color around, change the direction of my brush. I did move up to that number 10, so I do have a little bit bigger brush strokes. And I'm just going to pop that in there. And by adding the background, she looks really cute. Now, it's always interesting to compare the two to see how different they look. So this is the one we did tonight. This is the one I did earlier. I always say they never, they are not twins, but they could be related. They could be sisters, right? Is what we say. So go ahead and try making yours, paint yours. You could do it more than once. They don't take too long to do, and they always turn out different, and you're going to learn something every time you do one. So I'll be like, oh, I liked that, the way it turned out there, and I'd like to add that to my next one. If you don't do it in sketchbook form, you can do it in sketchbook. Canson does make a sketchbook size with like the spiral at the top, and it's a smaller type of a pad, so it's probably about this wide, and you could get a sketchbook of that Canson brand paper like the one that we're using in the big form. You could get a sketchbook and then just keep your paintings in there and just do them for fun. I also like to frame these and have them just out for a special time. Just get a simple little frame at your Dollar Tree or dollar store, and then frame them. If you have a work cubicle, if you work at an office, they're fun to put in your office space and have them there. But just a fun thing to have. You are welcome. I'm glad you came on tonight. I so appreciate it. Yes, I appreciate any thumbs up that you might give in the YouTube page. And if you're not a subscriber, if you think you got value and you'd like to follow along more for more tutorials, I always go live on Tuesdays and Thursdays on YouTube. And you're welcome to join anytime that you're live. I so appreciate it. Well, thanks everyone for coming on. And on Tuesday or Thursday, I'll be live again. And we're going to be working on, we're going to be painting pansies. So pansies are the February birthday flower. So we're going to be working on a pansy drawing on Thursday. So come back and see me. I'm always on 6 p.m. Central Time. Thanks everyone. You have a great evening, and hopefully you'll come back and see me again.